In this lesson, I will show you how to use Sketchup Book Pro's ruler tool. The ruler tool allows you to create highly accurate straight lines wherever you wish on your drawings. To begin, let's go to our interface lagoon here on our lower left. Let's select Tools and go to our Move and Zoom. What we want to do is we want to zoom out our canvas so we can see as much of it as possible. Then what we're going to do is deselect, go to our main menu to hit Image. Let's go ahead and go down to Symmetry Y and click on Symmetry Y or Lift Up. And this creates a center axis in the middle of our canvas. What I'd like to do also is to go back to the interface lagoon and open Layers. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our layer editor here because we're going to be working in a couple of layers to create our line drawing. To begin our sketch, let's draw a small communications handset. Let's open our drawing tools, select the pencil. Let's double click on that to make sure that's the pencil we like. Let's go to something a little harder. Let's scroll down to perhaps an HB2. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's move our resize brush tool over here. And from the center line, because we have our symmetrical tool on, we can draw the whole handset by just staying on one side. But keep in mind that you are drawing the width and the length to scale. So let's go ahead and freehand sketch something. And by the way, when you're sketching, I'd like you to focus mostly on straight and angled lines. Okay, let's go ahead and sketch that. Let's steepen that up. Let's divide it in half, or actually maybe in thirds. And what we'll do is we'll leave this lower half section here for buttons. And I think I'd like to maybe have some oval buttons. And you see how the symmetrical tool helps us get there? Helps us properly space. And we're going to have maybe a set of 12 buttons. And the actual screen. Now, to create our nice ruled lines with the ruler tool, what we're going to do is we're going to go to this layer editor and go to the first layer, and we're going to go to the opacity control and dial that down. And the reason why we want to obscure that is because we don't want to make it confusing as we're drawing on a separate layer. This is sort of like a guideline or an underlay, and that's exactly what we've created. And let's go ahead and add a layer. Let's go ahead and rename that layer by pressing in the middle of the layer editor on layer 2. Rename layer. Let's clear the image. Right to number 2, and we call this ruled lines. Go ahead and say OK. Let's go ahead and lock down that first layer, and let's start using the ruler tool. Let's select the second layer, go to our toolbox in the interface, and go directly to the right where it says Ruler, Hide, Show. We want to show that, so let's go ahead and drag and lift up. And what you'll see here is a ruler tool which has a couple of controls, and let me share those with you. There's a center axis, which is represented with this small square, and handles. You have a handle on the left and a handle on the right. And by positioning your cursor on those handles, you can see how you can rotate those lines into position. And you can actually stretch those lines out as well. By positioning it in the middle, you can locate the line to where you want it to be. So let's say what we want to do is create a set of angled lines, and we're going to use our underlay, okay, right here, as our guide. So let's go back to our top layer, layer 2, that's locked down, position that in place, select our pencil tool. This time we're at full opacity, and let's create a line. Okay, and you see because we have the symmetry tool on, the lines are being created on both sides. And I would not worry about any overdrawn lines because we can always go back in and erase those. Let's go ahead, while it's still in that angle, we can slightly adjust it and draft the second line. Let's go ahead and move this down by grabbing this handle in the middle. You see how it's right above the deselection button? Let's go ahead and pull that handle down. Let's move our layer editor over, grab this handle and rotate up. Let's grab the other handle and rotate it in position. Let's try to line that up. Now, also what's nice about working on separate layers is that you can actually adjust the line. Like say, this is the original sketched line, but now that I can bear down and give a little more accuracy to this line drawing, I can have the freedom to move it in or out as I please, or even adjust the angles. Let's go ahead and draft that line. And it's okay to draw a little bit beyond the object. This will allow you to have an easy cleanup. You see? This is something to also think about as you're using the symmetry tool and the ruler tool, is that you can always keep in mind that if there's an adjacent line, let's leave it in that position and move the tool over. Let's go ahead and rotate down. And also another thing to keep in mind is up in here is a little gauge, and this actually tells you if your line is going to be level or not. So just kind of keep an eye on that. That gives you the positioning. And because it's at 0, it tells me that's level. Let's go ahead and move down and add this angled line, which actually echoes what's going on the top. And before I close, I'd like to go ahead and create some guidelines, because the guidelines are going to be really helpful as we start to lay in the buttons later. So I'm going to go ahead and drop those in. And then again, these are as close as I can do them without actually having the button size in mind. So this is just a guideline. I can always go back in and change those. And you see how I've taken advantage of that horizontal line being up there. to take care of everything else on the drawing. I can rotate it to 90 degrees. You see how the gauge tells you it's 90 degrees straight up, and I can execute those lines as well. And to turn it off, I simply click on the X, and that deactivates it. To finish the drawing, I'll go ahead and, while it's still in symmetrical mode, clean up the rest of the drawing. So to close, Sketchup Pro's ruler tool is a quick way to create highly accurate straight lines in your illustration. Remember to work in layers, as it allows you to more easily erase and retouch your sketch.